Something that I am not very thrilled to talk about, but as per usual, we do need to take a look at it and see what the heck is going on. But first, before we do that, I do want to make sure that y'all know that I had a trip to Iowa recently, and I had a stream in the car of my road trip to Iowa. And as I was streaming it, something terrifying happened. I was attacked by a shape-shifting Cirrus. This harrowing moment was captured by axolotls with cream. They said I said Cirrus driving made me feel like there would be a jump scare. And so there was. Everything about this was harrowing, and I am surprised I survived the moment. But now we know that Cirrus can shapeshift into a weird quadruped creature, and this is information that is good to know, and will be very good to know when the playmat featuring them is available on sale in stores for everybody. That said, this part scares the shit out of me. Maybe not as much as Cirrus jumping out and trying to hurt me, but this part still scares the shit out of me. Trump threatened Portland with troops. Donald Trump has been desperately trying to send troops to multiple different cities in response to there being protests. This shit's crazy to me. Apparently he's going to be sending them to Memphis next. Well, I'm not so far away from Memphis that I could not go and try to record that going on. I don't know if that would be smart or safe to do, but it would be a thing I could attempt. So, a gas mask dangled from Deidre Watts' backpack as she joined a couple dozen others outside the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement building in Portland, just as she and has many nights since July. The protesters towed a blue line painted across the building's driveway. "Government property do not block," read its white stenciled letters. When they lingered too close, what appeared to be peppered balls rained down on them from officers posted on the building's roof. No one was injured Wednesday, and some of the crowd began to dissipate by about midnight. While disruptive to nearby residents, a charter school relocated this summer to get away from the crowd control devices. The nightly demonstrations are a far cry from the unrest that gripped the city following the murder of George Floyd in 2020. Last week, Donald Trump described living in Portland as living in hell. And he said he was considering sending in federal troops, as he had recently threatened to do combat crime in other cities. This included in Chicago, Baltimore, and Memphis, which we already mentioned. He deployed the National Guard to LA over the summer as part of his law enforcement takeover in Washington, D.C. Most violent crime around the country has actually declined in recent years, including in Portland, where a recent report from the Major Cities Chiefs Association found that homicides from January through June decreased by about 51% this year compared to the same period in 2024. There's a lot of propaganda that is set out to make it look like Portland's a hellscape, said Casey Leaguer, who's 61, who often sits outside the ICE building trying to observe immigration detainee transfers. 2 blocks away, you can just go to the river and sit and sip soda and watch the birds. The building is off a busy road leading into Portland from the suburbs, next to an affordable housing complex. During the day, Leaguer and a few other advocates mill about and offer copies of Know Your Rights flyers featuring a hotline number for reporting ICE arrests. Now, as many of you may know, I've actually visited Portland, Oregon. I went there because there was a video game expo, the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, that I wanted to go to. I met a bunch of friends there, had a great time. But my impressions of Portland were that it was a city that had a major homelessness problem. Now, the major homelessness problem from Portland, Oregon stemmed mostly from the fact that they did not have facilities set up to house refugees coming in from the California wildfires. A lot of people who were in there, who were in tents, there are giant tent cities in Portland, but a lot of the people who were in them were people who fled because their homes got burnt down due to the wildfires. So it's wild as hell to me that more money has not been pumped into a solution to fix the homelessness problem in Portland. But because of that, Because of that homelessness problem, it's very easy to get footage of Portland, Oregon, in order to try to convince people that the place is a hellscape that needs to be demolished or saved, or really any number of things you could argue for. It's very easy to paint Portland to the regular, person who lives in suburbia as a horrible place, because all you have to do is take a look at the 10 cities. The minute you do that, it's going to look like a fucking hellscape. And I'm not going to lie, it does. It doesn't look good. The solution to that, though, is to house the people who are unable to take care of themselves. Cirrus, why are you being advertised a weird-looking butt plug on the side? Am I? Is that advertisement for a butt plug? Where'd it go? Why is it not there anymore? Anyway, at night, Watts and other protesters, many dressed in black and wearing helmets or masks, arrive. She called ICE a callous and cruel machine. Yeah, I agree with that. ICE did not exist in America pre-9/11. We did not need it pre-9/11, and it doesn't add anything to us now. All it does is create an apparatus where the government can try to send a bunch of militarized, poorly trained assholes to shuffle people around and, in many cases, out of the country. In the face of that, there has to be people who will stand up and make it known that that's not going to fly. That that's not something that people agree with, Watt said. The agency did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The nighttime protests peaked in June after the nationwide No King marches, when Portland police declared one demonstration a riot. Since then, at least 26 protesters have been charged with federal offenses tied to the ICE building, including assaulting federal officers and more, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Oregon. Like other mayors across the country, I have not asked for and do not need federal intervention. And that was said by the Portland Mayor Keith Wilson. He says the city has protected freedom of expression while addressing occasional violence and property destruction. There have been similar clashes since June, on Labor Day, since some demonstrators brought a prop guillotine, a display that the Department of Homeland Security has blasted as unhinged behavior. Is it really unhinged when you're forcibly separating families and, actively getting people killed? I don't know. I feel like it's unhinged behavior to people who are scared. I do not feel like we should ever resort to violence. So I guess they could be seen as unhinged behavior there. Wilson expects protests to stay focused on the area by the building, he said. Perfectly Flawed says, I guess guillotines have a slide mechanism, not a hinge. But, think about it this way. What's more unhinged? A guillotine, which you have to actually take a lot of effort into getting somebody set up for and ready for, or just bringing a bunch of guns to an event. One of them is a far more efficient way to kill people, and if you were off your rocker, would be a far easier thing to hurt people with, or even kill them with. And yet, that is something that is considered perfectly normal in the United States. Some residents of the adjacent apartments are upset about that. What is that? Wilson expects protests to stay focused on the area by the building. Some residents of the adjacent apartments are upset about that. One sued to try to make the city enforce noise ordinances. She said that she believed noises from bullhorns and speakers and piercing whistle-type sounds akin to air raid sirens had caused her eardrums to burst, and gas that entered her apartment made her ill. The judge who heard this case sided with the city. I don't know, that sounds like a Karen. I don't think your eardrum bursted because people had megahorns. Rick Stipe, who had lived there for 10 years, said he accompanies some neighbors outside because they fear being harassed by protesters. He says, I just want them to leave us alone. I just want them to be gone. A charter school next to the ICE building, the Cottonwood School of Civics and Science, relocated over the summer, saying that chemical agents and crowd control projectiles had put student safety at risk. But I feel like the chemical agents and the crowd control projectiles would have been sent by ICE. So it's ICE you're concerned about. Many parents and students were regular customers at Chris Johnson's nearby coffee shop. He lamented the school's move and the national narrative that the protests were a bigger deal than they are. Says, I think people are very, very opinionated on either side of it. It just creates a divide, which is unfortunate. Of course it creates a divide. One group of people want to deport all the brown people, and one group doesn't want that to happen. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty reasonable fucking divide. But The scary thing to me is how much Trump is willing to just immediately go for the National Guard solution, go for the military solution, go for the solution that allows him to exert power. Now, the reason why he does this is pretty simple. He's a businessman. He likes looking at these things as if the United States is his business. And in a business, when you are the CEO, which he's the president, so he thinks he's the CEO, you have, outside of your board of directors, ultimate control over everything. You have ultimate control over everything in a business. Trump wants that kind of control over the United States. The reason why he is willing to lean so hard onto increased police measures, increased militarism, is twofold. On the one hand, it lets him exert control, and he's a control freak. He's also an agent of chaos. But the other reason he does that is it works really well for his personal narrative. Trump wants to have the narrative that these militaristic responses are necessary. And it's easier to convince people that they're necessary if you can show people footage of a protest getting violent. And what's the easiest way to make a protest violent? You increase the police presence and pressure against the protesters. As you do that, you will invariably have an increase in violence from the protesters, and it's easier to get footage of that and use that footage as an argument that you need to increase the police presence, and it becomes a cycle. It becomes a cycle that allows you to use more and more control. The best way to handle this is that if you are at a protest, do not let the protest erupt into violence. If the protest erupts into violence while you are there, distance yourself from the protest immediately. If enough people do so, then you will be safer. You as an individual. When you are at these protests, you are fighting for a common cause, but you cannot let that fight get you to a point where you get yourself hurt. We've gone over protest etiquette before. I've covered protests in streams. Have a burner phone with you when you are at one of these events so that your GPS cannot track you. Mask up when you're at one of these events so you cannot be seen by surveillance cameras. Wear eye protection when you're at one of these events so that crowd controlling devices like gas bombs cannot hurt you. Bring water at these events so that you and people around you do not suffer from heat stroke. Bring snacks to these events so that you can maintain your high energy throughout. Bring only what you can with you that you can pick up and run with, just in case things go bad. And do not ever, 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 ever talk to the fucking police. Your rights are the ability to have a lawyer and be silent. The best thing you can do is to shut the fuck up. Do not talk about the reason the protest is there. Do not talk to the officers. Do not talk to people pretending to be officers. Do not talk to people who could be pretending to be officers. You are not there as an individual representative of anything. You are there as a part of a group fighting for a common cause. And the best thing you can do for that group, when pressed, is to shut the fuck up. You have chance for a unanimous voice. But on an individual level, you need to do what is safest for you and the group around you. Pola Sirba says, I live in East Portland and I hear some explosions outside now. I hope those are just fireworks. Yay. That's spooky. Aether says, here's how to have less violence with the police. Have the police dance with the protesters and have them be regular police, not dudes in riot gear. When you say dace, do you mean dance? I think you mean dance. But anyway, that's my thoughts. In order to do these events and be safe, you need to keep protest etiquette in mind. When one of these events becomes unsafe, make sure that you leave. Make sure that you can be safe. Have an exit strategy planned. Especially because maniacs like the one in the White House want to send the military on you for exercising your First Amendment right. Don't let them have an excuse to do it more. Anyway, that's all I've got there. If you've got any advice that you think people should be following, let me know in the comments section below. If you see somebody spouting bad advice in regards to protest etiquette, correct them in the comments section below. Past that, be safe, y'all. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really could not do any of this without all of you. Those of you watching, and especially those of you who support me on Patreon. I wanted to go ahead and take a minute to thank all of you who do that, because with YouTube being what it is these days, I really cannot do this full time without the support from each and every one of you. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravalern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Tales of Atonement, Nixie Chan, Kiri Artemis, Limor Pinku, Love Bunny Games, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Aurora, Leela Ururaka, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fireshard. Thank you so very much. But since you're here, why not go ahead and try watching another one? There should be one that's on the screen right now. And if you are a patron of mine, I wanted to go ahead and thank you again for all of your support. There is still a video you could press though, if you'd like. I would appreciate it just a little bit.